to our pod. And by that, I mean on Wednesdays we read. I'm Hannah.
I'm Laura.
And we are two best friends who are doing a deep dive into a new book series, one book at a time. Right now we are shiting on the Wheel of Time, and we are discussing Robert Jordan and Brandon Sanderson's 12th book, The Gathering Storm, and we are discussing the men of the book. But what a man. What's a man? I'm
not going to say many fine because a lot of them are not fine in my book.
And they're also like 20, so I'm good. But Laura, before we get into it, what have you been reading, watching, and or enjoying?
So I read the graphic novel version of Kindred by Octavia Butler. It was adapted by Damian, Duffy, and who was the illustrator? Let me look this up really quick because they need credit too, because it's a graphic novel.
Of course.
It was pretty good. I think I need to just read the actual novel because
I would like to
graphic novels don't give them justice, you know. Oh, it's not this series. This is a different book.
Oh, okay.
It's Kindred. But it's who was the illustrator? John Jennings. I think that for what they did with it as a graphic novel, it was good. I would say 4 stars, but I think that I would get more from the actual novel.
Okay.
Than the graphic novel. It's about a woman in the 1970s, a black woman in the 1970s, and she keeps getting pulled back to like Maryland during like a really terrible time in the 1800s.
Antebellum era. Yeah.
Yes. And I believe it's her ancestors that she keeps being pulled back to. Okay. And her ancestor was a white slave owner. And so she keeps getting pulled back in time to him to like save him. Anytime that he feels like he's in danger, she gets pulled back in time. And then it's interesting because like when she goes back to the 1970s, it's just like minutes have passed. But when she's there, it can be years.
Oh, wow.
So, and yeah, it's really interesting. And I thought the art was really good too. But like I said, it's really hard with books, especially really deep ones like this, to turn them into graphic novels because I just felt like there was a lot missing from it that I could have gained from reading the actual novel.
Right.
So I'll definitely be reading that at some point. Okay. And then the other one. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I would be interested in doing a buddy read with you for that one.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And then the other one I read was One Italian Summer by Rebecca Serle. And I read her other book in 5 years, and I really liked that one. This one, I did not like. So it started out, and I loved the beginning of it. I was like sobbing in the beginning of it. I listened to it on audio. Lauren Graham narrates it from Gilmore Girls, if you will know. And Lauren Graham's a great narrator. However, like the beginning of the book, they talked a lot about like the relationship between this character and her mother who had recently passed away. And it was really just like heartbreaking to hear the way that the author described the connection between the two of them and how she felt that they were soulmates, and she knew that like her parents loved each other and had a wonderful relationship and everything, but she always kind of like considered her mother her soulmate and everything, and how they had just this special connection. And she was having like a really hard time dealing with her grief and handling her mother's death. So that was all so beautifully written, I thought. So then she decides to go on this trip to Italy, and her mother had previously been to Italy and was telling her all about it and everything, because her mother had went when she was young, like the same age as the heroine in the story. I guess not really heroine, the main character in the story.
Protagonist,
I guess. Also antagonist, because she does so many things. I'm like, stop. But she ends up going on this trip to Italy that she had planned to go on with her mother, but unfortunately her mother had passed away, so she went solo. And before she goes, I'm sorry, I'm really ruining this book for everyone. I'm spoiling everything. So if you don't want spoilers for One Italian Summer, I'm sure you can just stop listening to this podcast and jump ahead 2 minutes. But anyways, so she decides to go on this trip, And before she goes on the trip, she kind of has like this moment with her husband where she's like, I don't even know how to like move on with this relationship. I don't know how the world works anymore without my mom in it. And all of it's very relatable and everything. But then when she goes to Italy is when things start to fall apart, because there's this weird like time jump situation. The author likes to do a time jump.
Of course.
And what happens is when she's in Italy, she sees her mother as a 30-year-old when her mother had been on that trip previously.
Weird.
And so they spend time together and everything. And it's strange. And she ends up like sleeping with a guy that she meets there and everything, even though her and her husband were on a Ross and Rachel style break. And it's just very odd. And she finds out towards the end of the book that she had been born at the time that her mother was like on this trip. And she's like extremely angry about the fact that her mother would go on a trip when she had a young daughter. And I'm like, I don't get why this is so infuriating, but she's like, you have a daughter, you have a baby. Why are you here? You left me? You left me? And she feels like so betrayed, and it doesn't make sense necessarily, the betrayal situation. So I don't know. The book would have been much better if the author would have just stuck to like a grief storyline.
Yeah.
Because I think she could have written that really well. If she would have cut out all this time travel crap, it would have been an excellent book. But because she left it the way that she did, it just ruined it for me. Maybe other people like this. I don't know. I liked her other book that had time travel elements, but it worked much better in the other book that she wrote. This one, it felt like too much weird, and it would have been a much better book if it was strictly about the mother-daughter relationship and grief.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. It was just not a fave for me. I've seen a couple people on Instagram like posting about it because it's been the It book recently.
Right.
And people seem to really love it, and I guess I just don't. So
I've seen a lot more mixed views on it. So.
Oh, have you? Okay, well then I feel vindicated.
Yeah. So I wouldn't be, who knows? It's for some and not for others.
Yeah, it is what it is, but yeah, I think it's definitely a book that's going to be like possibly like rated higher than it should be just because it's getting so much hype. And I give it 3, but like 2.5 Storygraph. So
right.
It just not for me. Not for me. I liked her other book much better. What have you been reading and watching?
Have you been watching anything?
Just more Community.
I mean, I love that show, so I guess
there's nothing more to say there.
Community is a great show. Besides, it's a great show. Dean'll doodle do. So for me, I finished Young Mungo by Douglas Stewart. In the last episode, I was like, oh, it's so similar to Shuggie Bain. And then it was not. It was definitely not. Like halfway through, something happens where I was like, oh, I was not expecting this. And I kind of wish we had known earlier that was going to happen, because it felt a little like I was reading Shuggie Bain for a really long time, and then I suddenly wasn't, and that was really jarring for me. He still writes so well, but parts of that lost me a little bit, but I did like it. It ended up being more of like a love story between two queer men, and I loved that, and like growing love when like you don't quite understand. Again, there were not a lot of gay men open in that time period in Glasgow in the 90s. So I thought that was really interesting. You find out a little bit of the love interest, like mom who passed away. That was really sweet. And I really liked the book. Like, I feel like every time I talk about it on the podcast, it sounds like I hated it, but I rated it 4 stars. I think it was just like my enjoyment level wasn't as high. Again, on the bar graph of Hannah, I think it gets raised up by the writing style and a little bit to the left of the enjoyment style. But still excellent book. Highly recommend for people. It comes out in April. Definitely read it because he is a very good author. And the way he sets scenes is very cinematic. Like I'm sure one of these books will, like Shuggie Bain won awards, so I'm sure it'll be adapted into a movie at some point in time, because it feels like a little Oscar baity even. And I could see this one being a little bit less of an Oscar bait movie, but a perfect like second one. So they're very cinematic movies that I think are interesting to watch. He does delve into more of a romance in this book than he did in Shuggy Bane. Shuggy Bane was more about identity and more about family than this one was. But I very much like the ending, and I thought it was very good. And then I am about halfway through The Department of Sensitive Crimes by Alexander McCall Smith. It was recommended to me for a while. There was like something on Instagram. Our pod also did it on Twitter where people recommended us 12 different books. This was the first one recommended to me.
I've seen that one.
Yeah, he is, I believe he wrote the Ladies Detective Agency novels. And I think that this was adapted. I think this was he lives in Scotland, but I don't think this was written in English originally. I think it is a translation. But it's very cute and lighthearted. It's about like this detective, but he only does sensitive crimes that are like weird crimes, pretty much. Like in the first like 30 pages, there's a weird mystery of like someone gets stabbed in the back of the knee. And like if like police don't want to solve something, they just send it to this weird department where they're like, we deal with sensitive crimes, but sensitive is a loose term.
Oh my gosh.
And it's very like
so is it funny or is it
it's humorous. It is, I believe it's set in Sweden, I want to say. I believe it's Swedish. And so it's very much like I'm trying to find the right way to put it. It's like amusing, but it also like delves into weird, like there's just some
dark humor.
It's not even dark. It's just like a very unique and fluffy book, almost like A Man Called Uva is. Like, you know how it's just kind of bizarre when you're reading it and you're like, oh, this is just interesting. Like they have a lot of philosophical questions about like, and there's like a moment where he's at the vet and he's like, the dog is being let outside. And like this other police officer is there and he's like, what are you doing here? And he's like, see, this is why he'll never make detective. And it's just like little things like that they'll just jump into. And then they just sit there having conversations about like the North Pole. And if people are doing like
weird,
and it all makes sense in the context of the book, but they just have all these little bizarre philosophical things. And it's only 260 pages, but it's just like a cute little book that I'm very much enjoying. Yeah. I will say, there is something involving like a person who is very small. And they do use derogatory terms towards that person. And they use it as like they're not using it like calling him that, but they're using it to be like, well, is he, you know, this? And they're like, no, I don't think he is that. I think he's just a small person, you know? And I was like, oh, this is weird to read because this is a pretty recent book. Did they not catch that? Like, and at first I was like,
maybe it's the translation too.
I'm kind of hoping it's the translation where they don't know that that's a derogatory term.
Right.
And like for a while I was like, well, maybe it's supposed to be like set in the past, but then it also talks about like cell phones and pictures and selfies and stuff. So I was like,
so definitely not.
That's not it.
At least 2009.
But first, let me take a selfie. But yeah, I like it, but I did note that like some things and some of the philosophical things are not as like, as the young kids call, as Laura always says, woke.
Woke.
And those parts are a little jarring. So I think that lessens my enjoyment of the book. But it is just a fun little bizarre novel that I am very much being like, oh, it's nice. Like translations, like not reading a very Western standard, but you know, it's still, you know, Western, but
Barely.
Just like, yeah, reading about like little philosophical jaunts and like there's weird stuff. Yeah, and I'm very much liking it. So I'll probably finish that tonight because I'm over halfway through. But yeah, so those are the two books I'm reading. And for watching, I watched the How I Met Your Mother or How I Met Your Father season finale.
I haven't watched the finale yet.
Okay.
You can spoil it. I don't care.
No, I will just say that there are some like How I Met Your Mother things in this episode. So it was very shoehorned in. But I'm like, okay, the show is very cheesy. And I saw someone review it on TikTok where he was like, these people are too nice, but the show is very enjoyable, but it's cheesy and it knows exactly what it is. And apparently it just got picked up for season 2 will be 20 episodes. And I I actually think that will do this type of show a service. I don't think they make shows like this anymore, where it's just like, we're going to sit here for 20 episodes and that's good enough. So props to Hulu for trying to do a 20 episode series.
Sure.
And I will say that I do think it's making a new thing than How I Met Your Mother. And it's definitely like more of the female stories. And I enjoy
Oh, yeah, for sure. I feel like they're trying to make it better than what How I Met Your Mother was, but still keeping a lot of what made How I Met Your Mother very beloved by audiences.
Right. Well, and I think like I do hope to see as time goes on, because again, How I Met Your Mother couldn't do this in the first season, but I do hope to see like more of the like flashback jokes or like callbacks to like earlier jokes, because that was some of my favorite stuff on How I Met Your Mother, was like all the little like Easter eggs. But I'm glad they did away with a lot of the misogyny. So. Yeah,
absolutely. I hope they do a musical episode.
Oh, that would be amazing. I mean, you do have Hilary Duff. Laura and I did break into Lizzie McGuire 2 episodes ago. I mean, so
we could do a musical episode of our pod.
Who would write the music? It would be me.
You would have to write the music, but I would definitely help perform.
Laura and I were just talking about like how like quote unquote artistic you could be when you were a child, and she said something about like how she colored all the time, and I was like, I was really
talking about how to be artistic. I was on the internet checking my email, and these ads pop up on the side, and one of the ads that popped up was like a Lisa Frank coloring book. And so I texted Anna, I was like, oh my gosh, did you ever have these when you were a kid, these Lisa Frank coloring books? And she was like, no, I wasn't really into those. And I was like, oh, I used to draw all the time and was into like drawing horses and these coloring books and everything. And Hannah revealed something that I find to be very amazing and advanced for a 10-year-old to have been doing this.
I used to write my own music, guys. I was very prolific. They were wonderful songs.
You can find them on Spotify right now, actually.
And I told Laura, I told her one that I made when I was like 12 or 13. That was like a country music song. The chorus, I can still hear the music I created in my head when I see it. But like I tried to sing it, and like my pacing of it was way too fast. It would have had to have been a duet, so they could have each like traded off verses.
Sure.
But I made one about like, if you could be any animal, what would you be? And I, of course, picked horse, because Laura and I are famously horse girls. And the end of the song is me being like, if you could be any animal, what would you be? A pig? Goodbye to you. And that was the end of the song. And my sisters talked about that song constantly, and they were like, it was so cute. And it's just a weird moment where, looking back, I'm like, oh, no one wrote their own music.
I mean, that one sounds like a bop. So
I remember it was like, if I could be anything, I could be a horse, so I could run fast and play hard. The lyricism was just beautiful. But now it's indelible in my brain. I will never forget that.
Sure.
So just so people know a little bit.
I appreciate it.
I also had a notebook with like 100 different story ideas that I would just like, I kept close to me at all times, and somehow lost it. And I was like, I kept that like throughout high school, where I would look back on it and be like, oh, isn't this a cute little thing I did? Because I'm very sentimental, and I can't find it anywhere now. So that
just wait. There'll be a Netflix series based on one of those ideas, and you'll be like, what?
God. I mean, some of them I looked back on them when I was in high school, and I was like, that's just the plot to The Mummy, Hannah.
Oh, well then. Okay.
I ripped some of them off. One was definitely the plot to Twilight, but with werewolves, so it could have worked.
I mean, there were werewolves in Twilight.
I know, but
it's like if you
was a werewolf,
flip-flopped,
so yeah,
the vampires and werewolves. Okay,
so the Underworld series.
I was going to say, I think there is a series like that, but
it's Underworld. No, because she was also a vampire. I don't know. I watched a lot of those movies. But anyway, now we're getting off the tangent of things Hannah did as a child that she's not ashamed of, but boy, was there a reason she wasn't a popular kid. Should we get into these men in this book?
Yep. Let's go.
Rand first.
Sure. He is changing quickly, but still a nothing character, I feel like, because I don't know. I don't feel like he's the same Rand from Emmons Field. He doesn't have as much of that lovable quality to him anymore that he used to have.
Every single person in this book reminded you that he is no longer the boy from Emmons Field.
Oh my God. So many reflections. Just so many reflections. We get it, Brandon Sanderson. You miss Emmons Field.
I looked at Rand and I realized that we've come a long way. It's not the same boy
from Emmons Field. I remember that we used to think that we were going to be together someday, but now I'm going to be with Gowan. That kind of sucks. Okay.
Remember back when I thought I would marry Rand? What a weird time that was.
We've come so far from the time that I used to try to box his ears in Emmons Field. I guess he's actually a leader now or something. Weird.
I could box them now. I will make that boy laugh if it's the last thing I do.
I don't know. I was over all the reflections. It's just too many reflections. We get it. They miss Emmons Field and they've grown a lot. We don't need to have it mentioned to us every chapter.
Brando Sando, we get it. You read the books.
We know you love a good reminiscing. Let's all sit around the campfire and kumbaya about Emmons Field.
And think about the last time we sat by a campfire with the Tinkers.
When we were leaving Emmons Field.
And
when we were headed towards the eye of the world.
When Perrin glared at me as I danced with Aram, and now Aram has been murdered.
But back to that time when Aram was not someone who tried to kill Perrin randomly.
Because off screen he became, like, I don't know, a terrible person. Yeah, I agree with you that Rand is no longer the same person. I think you're right. Like, it's not even just so much missing the Rand from Emmons Field.
Here's
also
the
missing,
thing.
like, I think. Sorry, go ahead.
I think it makes sense though. So even though I'm like looking at his character and I'm like, oh, this Rand doesn't feel the same. I kind of like miss some of the lovable parts about Rand and some of the reasons that, you know, we felt connected to Emmons Field all the time. It makes sense to shift this character the way that he is doing. It was just so quickly that it's like,
yeah.
But it makes sense to have him start to become harsher and more tuned into that descent into madness. But
yeah. That's pretty much what I was going to say.
Okay.
So I think like a huge complaint you and I always had about Jordan was he was a teller, not a shower. Mm-hmm. And so I think he kept telling us like Rand's descending into madness, but then every time we were in Rand's head, he wasn't. Like,
yeah, and then Sando came in and was like, boom, it's done.
Yeah, and Sando was like, oh, Jordan told me he's descending into madness. I'm going to have him descend into madness. And we're both like, what? And like, we're confused because the context wasn't there before this book. So it feels very jarring. And I also think like, I do think that there was a little bit lost in Rand because of that descent that we didn't get to see wiped away. I think it just got like quickly erased. And we're like, wait, there's like a huge blank mark there. Because one of our favorite things about Rand was often like, he is the capable hero who will end up sacrificing himself. So he will be feeling all these feelings. And in this book, all those feelings got taken away for the madness, like where he just stopped feeling everything.
And throughout his list of women.
He even throughout the list of women. And so I think when you're expecting him to be what he's been throughout all these books, which is capable leader, who's walking into something, who's doing it like gregariously, which is how it seemed when Jordan was writing about it. You're like, what the fuck is going on? But I do think you're right. It makes complete sense once you realize like, oh, Brando Sando was just taking everything Jordan told us and he showed it to us and he showed us why this was an issue. Again, sometimes it was less effective than others. Rand has good points even when he's mad. Like, I had to kill this entire like crowd of people because they were dead anyway. You need to like let me be with my own guilt because like who are you to say I'm not guilt? Like I think problem is usually we would have seen Rand feel that guilt, and then Brando Sando decided to not have him feel any guilt. And we're like, that's not the Rand we know. Rand always feels guilty when he does stuff like this, even if he had to in the first place. And so I think him having to him unlearning it so quickly just to relearn it, I think can sometimes feel a little silly when you're the reader reading these one book at a time. Right. We're just very not accustomed to actually seeing on the page what we were told was happening. So
I think this transition is the hardest, though, too, from Jordan to Sanderson's writing, where it's like, wait a minute, what are you doing? Wait, what?
Right.
Where'd he go? Oh, okay.
Again, I'm of the mind that we're going to end up blaming Jordan for that. It's not Brando Sando's fault.
It's not his fault. He's a far superior writer. Team Brando Sando.
He's a capable writer who was like, oh, this is what Jordan wanted all along. He just wasn't doing it yet. I'm more effective at this. And it's like,
he is
more effective. And it gave me whiplash because you're so effective at it.
You're too good at it. Stop.
What did you think about his meeting with Tam in this book?
I was very sad by that. I wish we had more of Tam previously than we got. And I kind of wish that there would have been more of a perspective from Tam, because he was with Perrin several times throughout the other books. Why couldn't we have gotten his perspective every now and then, or had him and Perrin interact more or something? Because when he's but on this other hand, Jordan would have ruined it and made it bad. So maybe not. But maybe Brandon Sanderson should write a prequel, like we previously said, about Tam and his adventures, because that would be really good. But I did think that the way that he reacted to how Rand is now was heartbreaking, and how he just didn't even recognize his own son, basically, because he'd changed so much.
Well, and that's the thing. It's such a hard scene because we've known forever that Rand sees Tam as his father, but this is the first time Tam has to see Rand knowing that he wasn't his birth father, and I think Tam has a lot of guilt in that. And he has a lot of I don't even know what to do. And then to have it go sour so quick, where Rand's descent into madness, almost I don't know what the repercussions will be in the next book, but anytime Rand makes a mistake like this, he often pushes himself further inside himself.
Oh, yeah.
And because he's worried about how the other person feels in this situation, a la Min, who he should be able to feel her feelings. So I will die on that hill.
Okay.
But I'm worried that he's going to feel so ashamed of and Tam is going to forgive him because Tam loves him and Tam is awesome. But I think sometimes Rand's biggest failing is he doesn't understand that other people have just as much forgiveness and grace as he does. So we'll see.
I think it's an interesting interaction, though, too, because you kind of get the father who is proud of his son and has been proud of him and all the things he's been doing, but didn't really realize the repercussions that were involved and the things that were going to change within his son. And it's kind of difficult for a parent to see something like that.
I'd agree. And what did you think about again, I know it's Rand's descent into madness, but I do think it's interesting for what it means for the character that Rand was so harsh about Perrin using the men of Edmund's Field when it's well, there's a final battle going down. Why wouldn't he have to use these men?
That to me didn't make sense, because it makes sense for Perrin to get these people involved because it's their world too. I think Brandon Sanderson does a good job of putting the entire world into this and making this not just about the people, those 5 from Emmons Field that left. He makes it about the entire world and how everyone's going to be involved. And I mean, we do get just specific character stuff on them, but
I mean, the 5 who left from Emmons Field and every single woman that Jordan wanted to make the same exact woman over and over and over again and never expand to other men.
Yes, that's what I meant.
Yeah. Brandon Sanderson was just hey, wait a minute. There are other men.
Wait a minute. The population is greater than 5. Yeah, I think that it makes more sense for Perrin to involve the people from Emmons Field in this battle because it's a battle for their world. Why wouldn't they be? So It seems like a weird thing with Rand that he's always like trying to protect certain things and trying to like separate things into little sections when they're actually connected. You know what I mean?
I definitely agree. And I do think I think it would have made more sense had it been about like his dad and not all the Emmons Fielders.
Sure.
He's relying too much on them, where I think he could definitely because the whole thing about Rand is Rand has weird invisible lines drawn in the sand that once people cross them, he's like, why did you cross the line you do nothing about?
Exactly.
And that makes sense because a lot of principled people are like that. I'm not going to lie. Most of the principled people I meet who have rules and regulations are judgmental about stuff that they have no business getting their minds into. But it was a weird choice to have him be like, he's sacrificing all these men when it's like, Rand, if you don't win, it's going to be literally the end of the world. And you throw a conniption fit every single book about that fact. So it doesn't make sense when he's getting angry about that. But also he is someone who's very principled, draws lines in the sand, and then gets mad when people didn't realize that there was a line there. So that's complicated and a weird choice. I agree that it's a very weird choice. Okay, well, I mean, Perrin, he's not...
Nothing has happened with him, basically.
His wife murdered one of the characters that needed to get out of the book. Brando Santa was like, I don't know what to do with this crazy person. Bayou, can you help me?
Who can kill him?
I can't die. I'm Boy the Dragon Reborn. Oh no,
Let's see.
Dying.
What character hasn't killed anybody in a while?
What was that guy's name? I honestly cannot remember.
I don't remember. I know exactly what you're talking about, but I don't remember.
Massima.
Yes.
Okay.
There are too many characters.
There are too many characters. But Massima's been up for he's been one of the main crazy people. Not crazy. Crazy is the next term. I apologize, people. But yeah, it's been Massima and Massima. So, I mean, nothing happened with Massima besides you got to see inside a religious zealot's mind where it's I can't die. I'm in the right. Curse you all.
I feel like in this book, do we get tons of perspectives from the men? I don't feel like that's a thing.
We only had one perspective of Perrin, and it was Fael left me. She must have gone to the bathroom, which I find baffling that this man can smell confusion on a person, but he can't smell urine. I'm just going to say it.
Maybe she drinks a lot of water.
Still, what? That makes
Perrin slips asparagus into all of her meals so he can smell her. Is that what you're getting at, Hannah?
No! I just found it weird when he's like, oh, she must have left to go to the restroom. And I'm like, if Perrin can smell confusion, I'm mighty baffled at why he doesn't know.
What a humorous smell.
He smelled humor on her.
Yeah.
But can't smell that Fael's near the bathrooms. Okay, sure. Convenient.
She smelled a little constipated, but
that porridge does not smell her. But Perrin's doing nothing.
No.
He's in his wolf dreams going, hey, buddy.
I think it's time for me to figure this out. What?
Perrin.
Just now? I thought we gave up.
We did right off. We're I guess the whole wolf thing is never going to come into play.
Remember, last year when we started this book, you and I were both me especially, I was super into Perrin, and I was so excited about Perrin and these wolf dreams and all this stuff. And Jordan crushed those dreams, and now Brandon Sanderson is I'm going to reignite it. And I'm no!
I really liked the wolf thing.
I gave up on the wolf thing, Brando!
Now I'm just confused.
You're going to draw me back in and set me up for failure.
Just when I think I'm out,
they pull me back in.
You're giving me hope, Brando Santo. We all know what's left.
Do not let me down on this.
I do find it funny that, like, how Brandon Sanderson has to fix these characters. Because, like...
Well, and I was going to mention, we didn't get as many male perspectives because I think Brando Sando was like, he has screwed up these women so much. I have so much to fix.
I know.
And that's why we got more women. Especially Egwene. This was a good Egwene book. Okay. There was a lot to fix there.
Brando Sando loves a queen.
He does. He hates Nynaeve, but he still wants to fix her.
But he's still fixing her really quickly. He's like, don't worry. I know this.
Here's the thing, though. Well, I won't say it. I'll wait for next week.
Okay. But, like, I do think it's funny that he's like, I need to fix Perrin. We got to do these dreams. And we also have to have lines like, I know I got a little crazy when my wife was kidnapped, but my wife is kidnapped. I'm back now, baby. And it's like, you were crazy before Fael was gone. Like,
I really didn't cheat on her. I know what everyone thinks I did, but I didn't. I swear I didn't. We're just in the same tent. I swear I didn't do it. Like, come on.
My dad tells a story of him farting in church and blaming it on my little cousin. My little cousin screaming like, "It was you, Uncle! It was so you!"
Oh my gosh!
I feel like that is very much Perrin, where he's like, "I didn't cheat. It was not me," and it's just like, Perrin, we knew you didn't cheat. It just has to be like Fael, who's like, "Don't worry, my love. I knew all along." And it's like, no, she didn't. She's Fael.
I'm bringing it up. This is just not worth repeating.
Oh, I hated that scene so much. It doesn't make sense. I do feel like it's one of those things where if Brando Sando didn't like where a character was going, he's like, maybe if I fix it, they won't notice.
Well, we noticed.
We noticed.
It was, let me put it this way, glaringly obvious.
Oh, you really thought you pulled one over on us, Sando? You did not. So
sneaky is not something Perrin would smell on you.
But did you eat asparagus? What did you think of Matt in this book?
I still like Matt.
I still really like Matt. I
don't like that he calls Over ugly. I keep thinking about that. I'm like, that's so unnecessary. Why did that have to even be in there? What was the point of that? To be like, Over is an unattractive young boy. He's going to grow up to be pretty hideous, but it's okay now, I guess, because he can blow it off because he's 11. But I'm like, come on!
Blow it off because he's 11.
Why was that even necessary to write?
He's going to be a real uggo one day.
What does that add to anything to talk about how this 11-year-old in this story who just likes boobs and likes to play cards is ugly?
Or what does a 20-page scene where Matt goes through backstories he created for every single man he's taking with him into town, and they have a long conversation about it, and then all of a sudden in the last 2 seconds they say, hey, you know that lady you're going into town for? She's here.
Forget about it.
Happen.
You know all that stuff that we talked about for over an hour? Forget it.
Like, I understand that stuff happens in the real world, and it was funny. But why did I have to sit there through it for it to go nowhere?
You know, it'd be hilarious if, like, these 3 books were just, like, a big lead-up for him, just for him to, like, do something like that where it was just, like, pointless.
They just give you, like, the Twilight thing where they're like, oh, we're headed into a final battle. It's gonna happen.
Like the Twilight movie thing?
Yeah, the Twilight.
That would be amazing. Brandon Sanderson would be my hero if he did something like that.
Where the final battle happens, and then we find out, like, it's just a dream. 18-year-old ran down.
Yes!
And he was able to defeat the Dark One in the dream, and now
oh my gosh.
Marry a queen.
I would put up a Brandon Sanderson poster in my house if that was the situation.
Just Twilight movie it up.
Oh my gosh.
The last battle just happens in a dream sequence. It's okay.
A Memory of Light, Breaking Dawn, Part 3.
Oh God, the fact that those movies had hearts to them made me so mad. God. Okay, guys, we're going to go into town. You're going to be a merchant, but you're traveling away from your aunt. But
I need
want to travel away.
A numbers guy. Somebody that knows something about pipes. There's always somebody that knows something about pipes and air conditioning.
The weird ass thing where he's like, oh no, vampires / zombies.
That was random too. Also, he likes bubbles of evil.
So just like bubbles of evil.
And they appear out of like people's heads and everything. Like, what? I didn't know they could do that. That's even creepier.
Again, I really like what he does with the plot. It's just sometimes Brando Sando, you need to work a little bit harder to actually make the plot points matter. That's all I'm saying. But
how did you feel about Matt?
I mean, I really like Matt. I feel terrible for his life choices of choosing Tuan over the man who loves him the most, Telmanus.
Yeah.
Listen, creators of the TV show, that's the love story that you should really be working on.
Yeah.
Make Matt bisexual and make him fall in love with Telmanus. That'd be cool. That's all I'm here for. But I like Matt. He's going off on little romps. I think
he has a weird thing about hats now. This hat that he's wearing, he's mentioned it sometimes. I have to have my hat as long as I can have my hat.
Well, the hat's been there for a really long time. The hat has been there for a very long time.
Well, why is he mentioning it weirdly now?
So I do feel like, remember way back in book 1 where we're like, hey, Matt's entire personality is shenanigans.
Now his personality is hats?
No, I feel like Brandon imprinted that on his soul. And now all we get about Matt are weird little side shenanigans going on with his little hat. And it's just like,
because I know he's been wearing a hat and then he has like that scarf that he wears to cover up that scar, and his 5'7" medallion. But it's like, I noticed it more in this book where he was like, I have to have my hat. I have to wear a hat. And I'm like, why? Why is this mentioned?
It's because usually it's everyone else mentioning the hat. This is the first book that, like, again, all of these characters gain sentience when Brandon Sanderson started writing for them. And so although it's been like everyone else being like, and he wore a wide brimmed hat. Now all of a sudden it's Matt being like, I have to have my hat. What? And it's because it was usually from outside perspectives looking in. And now we have an inside perspective looking out. And
that's probably why I'm like annoyed by it.
And now he's just shenanigans. Like, I do feel like some of these characters got reset back to book like 1 or 2, where he's like, hey, if none of this stuff had happened, Matt's just going along meeting zombies.
Sure.
Planning heists, and that's it. And it's like, but Matt is now like a military strategist, and he's like, don't worry about that, okay? We're not talking about the military strategy. We're talking about Ocean's 11. So
don't worry, we know he can be a goof. He married a horrible woman.
He married an imperialist awful person. So, don't worry about that. So I do think, I wonder how much Brandon Sanderson understands about Matt, since there was a little bit of reset to his character, and I'm trepidatious about how he will end up reading him.
Big word.
Thank you. It's a $5 word for you. Let's see.
You can just Venmo me.
Do you have Venmo?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know you had Venmo. Oh, wait, I did. You've sent me money before. So what did we, okay, we have, I mean,
there's not a lot of other characters, honestly. Like Tom is mentioned a little bit, but
Moraine.
He loves Moraine. He knows how to do like fancy like things with daggers, and they say that's stupid.
I still think
to which I'm like, no, it's not. Do not call that stupid. That's awesome.
I mean, but to people who weapons are only supposed to be used in battle, it does seem a little
silly. To people who have to drip water slowly, drip by drip, until they ask, why am I doing this? It seems pretty stupid.
What did you think about Tam?
I mean, I don't think there's anything else to say that I haven't already said. feel like he's a really cool character that we could have got more of. But I don't want more Jordan of him. I want more Brando Sando of him.
Why did it take 12 books? Because like you and I talked about
I think that it was a deal where like Jordan didn't see the value in this character. And so he kind of threw him out so early on, like he did with so many other characters. He kind of like hyper-focused on certain characters, and then he would bring in others and throw them out constantly. Whereas Sanderson kind of sees the value in some of these characters and is like, this is an interesting character. I'm going to bring them back in. And he's done that. And now it's like, why didn't we have him before?
I freaking love Tam. Like Tam being to Catsuane, like you're just a bully and that's it.
We could have had more Tam and a lot less Fairlane.
Oh my God. Come on. Let's not have a sexual predator, but let's have a person who's honest and truthful and calls people on their crap.
Mm-hmm. And having more people that are like actually connected to the Dragon Reborn. Could have like moved forward with the story and have like a background. Like we still don't really know much about Tam and like his background before all of the Emmons Field stuff happened, like his Heronmark blade or anything like that. We don't really know anything about all of this. Why?
Could you imagine Tam, Brandon Sanderson's Tam, hanging out with Robert Jordan's file way back in book, what was it, 3? Where she's like, Baron, why don't you listen to me? And he's like, you know, when you speak from insecurity, it's a lot harder to hear you. Like just dropping bets of wisdom to like.
He would never talk to her.
Perrin, you need to get away from that person.
Perrin, come on, we're leaving.
Perrin, you're in a toxic relationship. Get out while you still can.
Run, Perrin, run!
I would love, if someone is good at art, which I am not, if someone could just make a comic series of Tam dropping into different scenes in Wheel of Time and dropping like the best line of information that you could possibly, like when Rand is like, I just don't know which girl I want to be with. And he's dropped in. He's like, listen, bud, you've got so many bigger things to worry about right now.
Just do them.
Maybe think about this later. Like, Gawain. Rand killed my mother. Listen, what we've learned about gossip is
here's the thing, Gawain.
The time. She had to get her throat. Here's the thing, Gawain. She's actually alive. We learned about it off screen. It wasn't that important. Yeah. Okay.
It would be cool though to have had like throughout the past 12 books to have had Tam involved in some of these things, or at least like actual conversations rather than like Tam was there.
The thing is like Tam was there and Tam was there. So that's the thing about like a failure of Robert Jordan is I think he often wanted to tell the story for weird reasons. I don't know why. He often wanted to just tell the story of like younger people coming into their own.
Sure.
But like the thing about younger people coming into their own is a lot of times they don't know anything. They don't know anything. And they're usually getting guidance from older people. But Jordan's like, nope. Those people are just as ridiculous as the younger ones. They've learned nothing in their time on this earth.
Right.
Don't worry about it. And it's like, that's not realistic. Because like, that's the thing is like, it's interesting to see Tam because Tam comes in and like, Rand is only surrounded by people his own age or like yes men. And so he's sitting there like, I'm so angry at the world. I can't believe this is happening to me. I don't have a choice in the matter. And Tam is like, you do have a choice in the matter. I understand what you're saying, but like your choice is that you do want to save the world. And that's just good enough for a choice for right now. And it's like, oh my God, where was he? Like,
which this is an interesting point you just made that he thinks that like young people are like totally capable and wouldn't like seek advice out of older people or whatever, which seems to be the case with Rand, that he is immediately accepted by older people, or at least easily accepted, if not immediately. But then he often likes to bring up like how Nynaeve was not accepted by the older people in the village because she was young. I'm like, wait a minute, you're playing both sides here. I'm confused.
I'm also sure that that's a little bit of like sexism, but you know,
but it is confusing.
I do think it is confusing. And I think sometimes like you said, Robert Jordan was an idea man. So some of these things were so half baked that you and I are confused when Brandon Sanderson like collected the thoughts of it and tried to put them into a new book. But that's the thing is like, I think a lot of the older people are much more capable in this book. which makes sense.
Sure.
But for some reason, we didn't have that because like Gareth Bryn is like dropping knowledge on like Gawain and being like, listen, you don't stand for anything, my guy.
Right.
And it's just like in books previous, Gareth Bryn has just been like, you stupid woman. I control an army. I'm important. And it's like,
why are you around? Like,
I'm going to have to put you over my knee if you don't do my washing real good, but we both love each other. Like, it was just very weird choices he made that I think Brandon Sanderson is like, okay, well, they're older and they've lived through wars.
Right.
Like, why wouldn't they be wiser on the other end? Like, I understand where all the lords and ladies are kind of stupid because, again, people in power who don't have to, like, function in society, sure, whatever. But a lot of these people were supposed to be capable, i.e. Gareth Bryn and Ace, and he's all of a sudden like, before this book came, we just knocked all the knowledge out of our heads. So it just doesn't make sense all the time. That's a good point. Good job, Anna.
Who else is there?
There's Gawain.
I forgot about him. He's so annoying.
If only I could forget about him. My girlfriend is a patsy.
I could not stand his chapters. Oh my gosh, how annoying.
He is such a privileged asshole. Just the worst. Like, he's the biggest hypocrite.
He also, like, people give him information. He believes no one. Like, what is it with his character that, like, people will say something to him? He's like, nope, that's definitely not the situation. Nope. Like, wait.
He was built up on this character who was like, we were told in earlier books that it's like, Gawain, like, his biggest fault is he believes Galad the most. Well, that got done away with real quick. But then it was like, he is honorable. He cares so much. He's so sweet. And it's like, where?
But actually, he's terrible.
He's terrible. He just walks around whining about his girlfriend who's busy doing other things.
And doesn't really like him?
Like, he was on the wrong side for books and books and books and books. And, like, it doesn't get done away with at all. Like, why wasn't he with his sister? I'm
only here because I wanted to protect Elaine and Egwene. But now I'm doing neither.
Right. Like, why were you listening to Elida for so long? I don't know. It's one
of those deals where it's like he keeps saying he's on the good side and he's like helping and he's an ally, and then he's like not doing anything to help anyone. If anything, he's fighting against everyone.
Huge issue with lots of allies. But like, oh God, I guess that's the whole thing. He's a white cis man and he thinks he's an ally, but he actually is just the problem.
He's the problem.
He's the problem. Again, and in the beginning of the chapters, I was like, oh, it looks like Brandon Sanderson might fix it by Gawain being like, oh, I'm the problem. I should go repent a little bit. But then he like runs away and he's like, oh, I learned nothing. I'm going to yell at Gareth Bryn for being on the wrong side, even though I defected. And
that was a super annoying section too, when he's yelling at Gareth and Gareth is like, listen, you have no idea what you're talking about.
Right? And he's like, I made an alliance with a woman you claim to love. What are you talking about? And he's just like, you don't stand for anything. And he's like, I did stand for something. I stood with your mother until she kicked me out because she was meeting some other dude that she liked. So like, don't come crawling to me crying about it. He's just, and then when he meets up with Egwene, he's like, don't worry, I'll take care of you. And it's just like, take care of what?
I didn't understand that either. And her reaction to it is also just like, wait, what?
Like, oh, you don't think I'm the Amerlin seat.
Wait, what?
And then she's like, I guess I'll still bond him. And it's like, no, Egwene, no.
She's still going to do it.
I know.
I'm confused by this character, though, honestly. Like, some of the other ones, like, I get it, where Jordan came in and he messed him up, but now we've got Brando Sando, and he's like, I'm cleaning him up, and we're going to make things a little bit better. And he's trying to fix things. But then there's this character where I'm like, what is the goal with this guy? I'm very confused.
I do wonder if it's a little bit of he's supposed to be Egwene's one big blind or weak spot. Like
that's definitely true.
Yeah. I mean, it's very, very true. But I think that that's kind of the purpose of him now, is to be like, listen, Egwene's so capable. She's so wonderful, but she keeps kowtowing to this asshole. And I think that might be his purpose, where it's like they're going to be butting heads and he's always going to think he's a little bit better than her, which also makes sense. It's not done as effectively as I would like it to, but it makes sense that he walks into situations screaming for the manager based on who he is.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, because he's just like, I was born for this. And he's like, no matter, since the beginning, he's kind of been this guy who's like, I don't want to fight you. Like
I will.
Well, even with like when we're introduced to him through Matt's eyes, Matt's kind of like, hey, why don't we wager? I'm going to beat you up. And he's like, I couldn't do that. It's not honorable.
It's not honorable. I'm trained as a swordsmith.
So amazing. And then Matt's
like, give me that quarterstaff.
Right. And like someone walks in and they're like, you're an idiot. He's from the Two Rivers area. All those men know how to work a quarterstaff. And it's like this thing of, I'm such a big head honcho. I know the way the world works because I'm a prince. And it's like, no, you don't. That's why you don't know how the world works, because you're a prince and you've been catered to. And you're
similar to his sister at many times.
But like even with her, it was like, I was raised to be a diplomat and he was raised to stand next to her and die first. So
he was raised to do something that we're unsure of at this point.
He was raised to be her right-hand person, and he literally quit that job.
But he's not doing it, even though he says he is.
I'm going to do it later. Leave me alone.
The only reason I'm here is to protect Elaine eventually.
Also something that like Jordan screwed up, because Jordan was very much like, listen, his entire purpose is to protect Elaine. He's only there for Elaine, but he's definitely becoming Egwene's warder. And it's like, you could have had so much subterfuge where it's like, I'm this honorable guy. I don't know what to do. The woman I love, she wants me to be her warder. I don't know whether to say yes or no. But this guy's like, okay, I'm doing it.
Do you think that Jordan made a mistake with these characters, especially like characters like Gawain and Galad, by like separating them too much from some of the other characters? Because I feel like that's definitely a thing where it's like the only times we've really been interacting with Gawain are like through creepy dream sequences and stuff like that since he was first introduced. And it's like, now it's just,
and that's,
we don't know him well enough. He's just that guy that shows up to the party and we're like, oh, we don't really know him. Nobody knows anything about him. And he's just going to yell at us.
I really like his girlfriend, and it's really hard not to invite her.
I know.
She's so nice, and she helps plan the party, and she always brings snacks, and she's definitely the DD. You just kind of have to deal with her douchey boyfriend.
And I just feel like maybe if he would have planned this out a little bit better and not like separated off the characters so much, he could have kept Gawain or Galad with one of the core five a little more and like incorporated them into another one of their storylines more, and it would have made more sense.
I think that makes a lot more sense. And that's also why I do wonder if Brando Sando is just kind of taking the only thing he can take from Gawain, which is like, Egwene loves him so much. So now he's just going to be the douchey boyfriend that has to hang around everyone else.
Right.
And that's all they can do with him, because like, Brando Sando can't make him like, oh, now we're star-crossed lovers. I don't know whether to be your warder or not because it's shirking my duty, because he's already shirked the duty.
Right.
Like there's nothing left for him. So, yeah. I
love for Egwene.
I healed it with love for my daughter. Bobby's little boy loves that scene. He giggles every time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if you go, I healed it with love for my daughter. He always goes,
oh, cute.
Hilarious. Yeah, but I think, Gawain's the worst. Matt is back to shenanigans. Perrin is back to being someone we might actually like, but it's confusing.
Perrin.
And Rand makes more sense in the context of what Jordan was trying to do, but definitely failed.
But couldn't achieve.
And Tom and Moraine forever, and Matt and Talmatis forever.
And really, the real man that we should be talking about is Brando Sando.
Brando Sando. You did great, my guy.
I really liked him as the author.
We really liked you as the author. We think you did a great job.
He's winning me back.
Yeah, I like you. Good job, bud. We tip our hats to you.
Should have been the author all along.
Books.
Should have been the author all along. We'll die on that hill.
But you guys should all join us next week to discuss the women in the Wheel of Time, a.k.a. Nynaeve and Egwene, and I guess Aviendha and Min.
Maybe Fael.
Maybe Fael, who had a lobotomy. Yeah.
The new Fael.
The new Fael 2.0. She's back. She's better than ever, apparently. But
she's someone new.
Before you join us, you guys should rate, review, and subscribe, because rating, reviewing, and subscribing helps other people find the podcast and really giggle through Brando Sando and Robert Jordan of it all. You should also follow us at Our Pod, that's OWWR Pod, on Instagram and Twitter. Right now, we are doing our voting to figure out what book Laura and I will be reading during our indie intermission.
Ooh.
So please follow us on Twitter and Instagram, where we will be hosting voting, and we're going to figure it out in between. But we're going to be picking out what's we're going to read next, and you guys are going to help us.
Send those recs.
Before we start blazing through the Poppy War, which was something that also won. So check out our new miniseries logo and check out everything else. And please join us next week. Bye.
Bye.